Well, it's a new ship, but she's got the right name. Now, you remember that, you hear?
I will, sir.
You treat her like a lady, and she'll always bring you home.
35 years ago today, uh, that was part of the first new live action, or no, because actually the movies were. This was a brand new series of Star Trek: The Next Generation. Uh, 18 years after the original series went off the air, the original series was still carried on through movies, but this was a brand new ship, a brand new crew, uh, something we'd never seen before. Uh, Introduce some new concepts, the android Data, the Klingon Worf, the first Klingon in Starfleet, and serving on the flagship of the Federation, Captain Jean-Luc Picard. The one of the I believe he was also one of the youngest captains in Starfleet. I might be wrong on that. Uh, you know, his number one, Will Riker, uh, which him and Deanna Troi was liberally lifted from uh, Decker and Ilya from Star Trek: The Motion Picture. After that, 7 years of adventures introducing the Borg, the Cardassian, the Bajorans, just expanding Star Trek lore left and right, uh, leading on to Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Enterprise, you know. And then, it was heady days. There were, Star Trek fans coming out of the woodwork, younger fans, older fans like myself, who, we watched the original series, we read the books, we watched the animated series, but there just wasn't a lot out there until this explosion of new stuff. We saw the movies. The movies were there, but the movies were every 2 or 3 years. Finally, we got weekly episodes of Star Trek, and we got to see the Romulans, we got to see Klingons, we got to see the Ferengi and Cardassians. It was a great time. It was a wonderful, wonderful time. We, as a Star Trek fan, I remember sitting down. I recorded it because when it was on at a strange time, and I was working, and I finally got the time off to see it, and it was a little hokey. It wasn't. I'll give it. It really didn't hit its stride, I think, until season 3. And fortunately, we were given that time. Uh, Season 2 with Pulaski wasn't great. Uh, having to, Picard and the crew almost be foster parents to Wesley while Beverly uh, went to Earth to work at Starfleet Medical. Actually, Gates McFadden wanted to do movies, but they still they had to deal with Wesley. But she came back in season 3. They got rid of Diana Muldaur. But I have to say, Next Generation is not one of my favorite Star Trek series, but it was a stepping stone to get there. We had, my favorite was Deep Space Nine, and but the foundation was laid with the Next Generation. Next Generation is where we first saw the Cardassians, we first saw the Bajorans, and it was, We got to see, you know, the whole thing where with Deep Space Nine was Cisco lost his wife and his command or his ship. He wasn't the commander, but the ship he served on, his friends and most of his friends and family at Battle Wolf 359, which was Best of Both Worlds Part One. Part One. You know, we got to see something we some things we never got to see before, like families and children. The Enterprise was supposed to be so far away from the Federation, it never really happened. you know, that's why the families were there, because it was a ship of exploration, and it was supposed to go. Its own 5-year mission was to expand the borders of the Federation, but it never really did. It was. I think the furthest it got out was when Q threw it halfway across the galaxy, and they met the Borg for the first time. Oh, Q. How I could forget Q. He 30 years later he was still, or 33 years later, when he showed back up in Picard. He's a lasting member of Star Trek lore. He's one of my favorite of Star Trek lore. I always liked Q. The Enterprise D, I felt was an ugly ship. I really hated that design, and when it died in Generations, I couldn't have been happier. I like the E. I like the predecessor. I like the C. I liked the Enterprise. The Enterprise refit, both the O1 and the O1A. The Excelsior refit the Enterprises B. The Ambassador class C. I loved all those designs. I think the Enterprise D was a misstep, but it has its fans, so I'm not going to say too much bad about it. The uniforms for the pajamas the first year were a callback to the pajamas from Star Trek: The Motion Picture. I think this first season was actually Gene Roddenberry's attempt to get back to what he tried to do in the motion picture. The uniforms were, callbacks. The whole relationship between Riker and Deanna. But, with having a handicapped officer was new. I don't know. I don't think we've seen that in science fiction. Up to maybe but Geordi, he was handicapped. He couldn't see, but he had but that didn't stop him. He got in as much trouble as anybody else, and maybe more at times. Data, we got to see. Data fulfilled Spock's role, as in the outsider. Also Worf. He was literally the outsider. He was a Klingon raised by humans. Both of them we got to see the Federation and humanity through their eyes, and we got to learn more about the Klingon Empire with roles of stories of Worf and Riker being part of the going to help out with the Empire. We got to see Picard help out Gowron on his ascension. There were things that we as Star Trek fans were able to take in, and it was joyous. Like I said, the first couple of years, not too great, but it was new Star Trek, and we felt we were happy. This started in '87. Not too long after that, I joined Starfleet for the first time. I became a member at the USS Peacekeeper in Visalia, California. I've commanded a couple of chapters of Starfleet, also the International Federation of Trekkers since then. it got me active in the fan groups, and not just the fan groups. We focused on charity as well, and which I wouldn't have been involved in if it wasn't for Star Trek. We reached out and we helped out our neighborhoods. You know, whether it be going to children's hospitals in uniform during for Halloween, and doing a reverse trick or treat where we would give the kids candy or coloring books or whatever, or you know, canned food drives for local food banks, or shelters, women's shelters. You know, things that we did, raised money, uh, raised awareness for these causes. We uh, gave out during Easter and Thanksgiving. We gave back as food to local elementary schools to give to the underprivileged kids. We also donated to local church food banks. I already said that once, but you know, which if I hadn't been involved with Starfleet, I wouldn't do this. Which I wouldn't have done this if it wasn't for Star Trek: The Next Generation, because at the time, uh, I consider myself a fan, but I never got into the cosplay. I never got into uh, being active. A big Star Wars fan. You can't really see back here, but I before Star Trek, I was a big Star Wars fan, and it wasn't until and while I was a Star Wars fan, I didn't want to. I wasn't active. I read and I collected, but I didn't get active. It wasn't until Star Trek came around, or Next Generation came around, that all this happened. I really appreciate what I wanted to say George Lucas, Gene Roddenberry did. Uh, 35 years ago, he showed us yet again how humanity could be better than what it was, how we could, that it wasn't who we are on the outside, what color our skin was. It wasn't even that if we were all from the same planet. It was what we were on the inside, whether we were, even if, we were Klingon or Romulan or Cardassian, Bajoran, Ferengi, we were all people. We all had the same hopes and dreams, and we had to get past ourselves to reach the future we want to see. And 35 years seems to have gone by, and in a blink. My apologies. I had to take that. Uh, I appreciate everybody who's worked with Star Trek in the last 35 years, which none of it would have been happened if it wasn't for the Next Generation. If Gene Roddenberry hadn't said, I want to return to this universe and I want to see what new stories I could tell. I'm not done. And, thanks, Gene. Thanks, everybody who participated in Star Trek: The Next Generation, and everything that's come past. Thank you to all the fans out there who accepted it, or came to accept it. Thank you for all the fans today who, I might not like the new Star Trek, but thank you for liking it, to helping it grow, thank you for letting Star Trek reach out, be more than what it is. It's just a television series. Thank you for taking Star Trek into your life and making it a part of you. I'm Bill. I am the man in the middle. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, drop a comment down below, and I will talk to you later. Happy 35th anniversary, Star Trek Next Generation.